Hello guys, what is going on? Today we are discussing, is Micro Four Thirds dead? Does it have a future? Will we see another Micro Four Thirds camera? The famed and largely anticipated GH6, will it happen? That's what we're talking about today. Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Jake here. Follow me on Instagram, hit like, hit subscribe if you're new around here. I'm addicted to cameras, and I like to talk about all things cameras as well as make my own, movies, whatever. I like making videos with cameras. That's the gist. But today we are talking all things Micro Four Thirds, and this is a topic that is very near and dear to me. If for some reason you are new to the channel, this is the first video you've clicked on, I think context is extremely important, and all of the people who have been here are like, Jake, we've heard this story a million times, but let's back up, give a little bit of context. I've been making videos like hardcore, doing the whole YouTube thing, trying to take pictures, make my Instagram look as good as possible, the whole, sort of social media gig for about 3 years now. And I started with the Panasonic G7, then I bought the Panasonic G9, then the Panasonic GH5S, and then the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. And for the first time this year in February, I decided to buy the Sony a7 III, my first attempt at a full frame camera. So I guess in light, what I'm trying to say, guys, is I have a huge history with Micro Four Thirds, but also, today we are filming on the Sony. Full discretion, I love full frame. Mostly today is autofocus. I tend to be animated with how I like to talk about cameras, and so having that oh my gosh, I just hit the microphone. I'm too animated. But with that, I really like to have really good autofocus. It just makes my job easier. It's so stinking nice, and you guys know, the Pocket 4K doesn't have autofocus, and the Panasonics, it's there, but not really. But the point being, I have a huge history with Micro Four Thirds. I love Micro Four Thirds, but I'm not biased. I think you can make great stuff with any camera, and we're using a full frame camera today. So we are going to break down, is there a future for Micro Four Thirds? I think, guys, this really splits into two main arguments. Those who use Micro Four Third cameras have phenomenal reasons for using them. I myself have always been a huge Micro Four Thirds fan because it tends to be the most budget-friendly system, the smallest, most ergonomic system, as well as offering incredible image quality for what you are paying. The Pocket 4K can look like a Hollywood-level cinema camera if you know what you're doing when you shoot and grade with it. The GH5S can look incredible. The GH5 can look incredible. I've never used it, but everyone uses that camera and it looks great. There are so many real honest benefits to Micro Four Thirds, and those would be the reasons that Panasonic, because Olympus no longer exists, those would be the reasons that Panasonic would make something like the GH6. Now, I think where it gets tricky is in that corporate level commercial side of things. For those of you who don't know, this is not my full-time job. It doesn't pay the bills enough at this point. So I do work a 9-to-5 at a rather large, multi-billion-dollar corporation. And so, having been in that environment, I can very much see the writing on the wall with what Panasonic is doing. For those of you who have been living under a rock, they have released is it just 4? I think 4 unanswered full frame cameras to Micro Four Thirds cameras. Trying to remember when the GH5S came out, but I believe that's the last Micro Four Thirds camera that we've gotten from Panasonic. Now, does this right away indicate that they won't make a GH6? I don't think so. I think they still will do at least one more generation, but the writing is kind of on the wall. They seem to be pushing full frame very hard. So why is Panasonic pushing that so hard? Again, I don't have hard numbers, but we all know Sony and Canon are the main players in the camera space. Neither manufacturers make a Micro Four Thirds camera that I'm aware of. I don't think either of them do. If they do, we've never heard of it. No one buys it. And really on their side, they are pushing the full frame market. For those living under a rock, Sony's been doing full frame for forever, and they just came out with the A7C, a small compact full frame camera, and Canon has been diving into the R5, R6, EOS R. Everyone has been pushing full frame. So naturally, I think it makes sense why Panasonic has been pushing full frame as well. The competition has been doing incredibly well from a commercial corporate standpoint with these full frame cameras. And not only that, Sony and Canon also both make the APS-C crop sensor cameras, which are very popular in entry-level photography and videography. So Panasonic seems to be trying to make sure that they aren't bled out of their own line of work. And again, I don't think that this discredits the demand for Micro Four Thirds. I think it is there. There will always be people, myself included, who love the Micro Four Thirds mount. Native lenses are tiny, and it's incredibly easy to adapt big glass if you want it. And I think all of us make that same argument, especially when we think about full frame. I make it all the time. I hate how big full frame glass is, especially telephotos. They're massive, they're heavy, they're huge. They're such a pain in the butt. I love backpacking, mountain biking, snowmobiling. I'm into all of those activities, so I'm always looking for that perfect blend of really small but really high quality camera, which is why I've always gravitated towards, Micro Four Thirds Panasonic cameras. And I decided to try the A7 III, also a very small camera. But again, lens to lens, comparing your options, the lenses are just anywhere from 2 to 3 times bigger for full frame. And that's just something that we haven't overcome with the physics of a larger sensor. No one's cracked that yet. There's certainly been some really good improvements. The new RF, 70 to 200 is a pretty small lens, definitely something you could bring in your bag, but it goes without saying, good big full frame glass is way bigger than Micro Four Thirds glass. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is the desire for consumers like myself for Micro Four Thirds will always be there, but are we getting overstepped and stepped on by the other segments of the market? I think generally when you describe that user who wants the smallest form factor camera, most people would say cell phones are getting incredibly good, and GoPros, the new GoPro 9 looks super great, 5K in that tiny package. There are a lot of really small sensor, really travel-friendly cameras that can rival Micro Four Thirds. And on top of that, you have Fujifilm's APS-C lineup, Sony's APS-C lineup, and Canon's APS-C lineup that also has very small lenses. So I'm almost wondering if the fate of Micro Four Thirds will come down to less of if the demand is there, but how much demand is there. It's basic economics, right? We all want and will scream for the GH6. We want that camera so badly, but just based on the fact that Sony and Canon are doing better with their APS-C and full frame lineup from a business standpoint, it's hard to imagine that Panasonic, like they're doing, aren't going to push really hard to get into full frame. Which, guys, it does make me sad, but I think it's just that debate. I think all that we can hope for right now is, will there be enough demand for the GH6? Will Panasonic make it? Obviously, Olympus is out of the running, and there's really only one big player manufacturer that makes the Micro Four Thirds sensor cameras, and that's Panasonic. And I will just say, guys, I am actually tempted to sell my Micro Four Thirds cameras. I have been loving my Sony. I really enjoy it. Again, I'm trying to find more of a middle ground for having smaller lenses and, a small mirrorless camera. I don't know. I don't have any decisions made at this point, but there is a very good chance that I will be switching my hybrid travel setup. Like I've talked about it before. I brought my GH5S backpacking, but I felt like the photos, resolution wasn't there. I wanted way more detail on those awesome landscape shots, but then I also want the good video compact features. So that'll be for another video. I don't want to spoil anything because obviously decisions haven't been made. I've been, spinning around trying to figure out what I want the most. But I think it's safe to say that I've been asking these questions, and so I thought we should discuss it today, because this could be the end of Micro Four Thirds. And I myself, I don't think I'll ever sell my Pocket 4K. It's my favorite camera of all time from just a video standpoint. I love making like shorts with that camera. I want to start doing that more, little short films, documentary type work. That camera is my dream camera for that type of work. But for backpacking, snowmobiling, mountain biking, where I want a camera that can do great video and great photos and be very compact, I'm starting to wonder if Micro Four Thirds isn't the best all around option. And I do think that the A7 III is a very compact, incredible full frame camera, but again, for that bigger glass, it's just tough. It's really, really tough, because I want to travel as light as I possibly can. Anyway, again, that'll be another video. The point I just wanted to make today is I think there is demand for Micro Four Thirds. Is Micro Four Thirds inferior? Does it suck? No, they're great cameras. They fit a very great niche. There's a lot of people that use them phenomenally. I love using them. I think they are some of the best ergonomic cameras on the market, but I think it's just going to boil down to that corporate level, fluff, and just seeing if Panasonic finds the value and the demand to continue Micro Four Thirds. But guys, that's pretty much all I've got for you today. I hope you liked this video. Again, just trying to kind of chat about camera stuff, one of my favorite things to do. Hoping to make some other kind of short filmy type stuff this weekend, because it's the weekend, which is always great. So anyway, if you're new around here, consider subscribing and leaving a like. This channel is all about camera gear, creativity from constraint, being creative with what you have. And at the end of the day, if Micro Four Thirds does get discontinued, I promise that any camera in the past 4 years you can make amazing stuff with. So don't forget that. That's super important. But you guys have a good one. Peace out, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Okay. See you guys.